This time we figure out when Flying Coney will be ready for launch and what needs to be done to get there. And we will reveal why we don't sandblast Flying Coney right now.
The big task for this year is to get the hull fixed from the outside. We hope this could be achieved by good pressure wash and a little bit of paint. However, when we hauled out the boat, we discovered a very severe corrosion damage. So now we are facing a labor-extensive, very expensive and extended time in the shipyard.
Hello, it's so good to see you again. I'm Barbara and together with Daniel I restore this massive historic steel ship. This time is all about launching. We know we are not ready yet, but we're getting closer each and every week. So let's find out what needs to be done before Flying Coney can finally get back into the water. Before we start into this video, I want to thank all our supporters on Patreon and PayPal. Your support makes this project and the videos possible. Thank you so much. And now let's bring you up to date.
So far we ripped out the galley, all the interior from the saloon and underneath the aft cabin, and removed a lot of dusty old cork insulation together with some frames. Then we called in an expert who discovered a very big hole, but we decided to continue this project anyway. And while Lucas was repairing the hole, we continued with massive destruction and cutting open a tank from hell. So what's up next?
Up until now, we mainly ripped things apart and found a lot of nasty surprises. But now things are changing. Destruction phase is over and we finally start to improve our ship. Everything we do from now on will bring us one step closer to launching.
Yesterday we made a quite tough decision, and that was that we are going to do the reframing and the repairs of the frame next spring, and that we now try to get into the water as soon as possible. And today was also a celebration day because they closed the hole that was here. It was the last day the yard was supposed to weld on the hull. Well, it really feels like there was light at the end of the tunnel, and now the tunnel gets much longer. It means we do have to remove all the interior that is left in the foreship, which is quite a lot of work we did want it to do when the boat is back in the water without time pressure.
Nice.
But unfortunately, after Lucas did this nice overplating here to shut the hole, he welded the last two rivets that needed to be done. That was this one here, and the last rivet he did was that one. And when he did that one, this nice little hole here opened up. So that was that for the plans.
Just before the hole opened up, we were pretty sure there are no more unexpected surprises. So we postponed the frame repair to next spring and aimed to be in the water within 1 month. And then the hole opened up, and that was that for the plans. Instead of creating new time frames, we decided to continue with rolling 2 weeks, with the benefit of eventually launching 2 weeks early. So what do we need to do?
We certainly need another overplating here, but this hole here is again on the weak spot where the concrete, which is up to here, meets the steel hull, and where all the moisture that runs down the hull inside collects.
Always hard to stop when you start things. Getting rid of the rust.
Since this was the second hole in this area, we decided to better have a look at the steel there. And having a look on a steel ship usually involves a hammer. You tap the steel to see if you punch right through and to hear how it sounds. Because 7mm of steel sound quite different to 2mm of rust. And after we investigated the steel and the concrete, we asked Albert and Jan from the yard to have a look too.
The tank was a big surprise. It's in good condition.
What is that?
Diesel.
After this first rough examination where we checked all the weak spots and found no other holes, we were quite satisfied. However, a hole in a ship is always bad, so we made a plan that included to de-rust the waterline, to have a closer look with an air chisel and to call in the surveyor one more time. Because we want to make absolutely sure before we launch the ship that there is no hole left. And if someone just said sandblasting, I have good news for you. Daniel will talk about it later.
There might be even more of these spots. So what we're going to do, or what the yard is going to do, is to go alongside the concrete a little bit above with a needle gun to strip the hull and just to have a look if the needle gun will punch through at certain spots, or we also can measure them from the inside a few spots, so that gives us more certainty.
Good enough.
Good enough.
Good.
Do we want to show them what we did today? So we have
Yeah.
some upside as well.
Yeah, follow me. Well, when they have welded a spot like here, the paint is burned. There, you see it a bit better up there. The paint is burned, and if you paint over this, the paint won't last. So what we need to do over the whole hull is to strip it.
We got time on our side. We're in a state of hope. I need you on my fire. I want you to know that every time you're away, I long for you so much I can find my way. We got everything here, at least to stay alive. And the time that we share makes it all worthwhile. Got this place on our own. Do you feel that we got something strong? And I saw you walking the line, and the truth may come as a surprise. That with you I feel alive. You'll be the last one I think about.
It is quite a lot of work, but we achieved quite a little bit today, I think.
I think so too.
Great.
And I think it's quite a nice work. You see the progress, there is a lot of progress. I think it took us 2, maybe 3 hours for
3
let's say,
exhausting hours.
quarter of the rivets.
Yeah.
But there is an end.
There is.
And you see a result at the end of the day.
Yep.
And it's one step closer to go into the water.
It is. It is.
So try to keep the spirits high.
Let's try. Well, we can't go in the water with a hole in the boat.
That's for sure.
In fact, there was so much to do that days felt like weeks and weeks felt like months. And with the soon arriving winter, the window for painting was rapidly closing. So pressure was on, and with no room for slack, we had to continue no matter what. But before launching, we still have some challenging tasks ahead of us. The biggest job is to make sure we have no more holes in the hull. So we will run an air chisel all along the inside of the hull just to make sure that behind the big rust scales there is no hidden hole. On the outside, the problematic area is the waterline, so we will de-rust it with the Terco, the CSD disc and wire brushes. That means weeks of work on a working platform with quite heavy power tools. And we need to go all over the welding spots with the power tools as well. Then the waterline and each welding spot need to be painted with a 2-component primer. And then Jan can spray an aluminium primer on top of it, and finally it is time for a new layer of anti-fouling and a coat of shiny new paint above the waterline. Our time frame for all of that are rolling 2 weeks. But first we have to take care of our through holes.
We want to exchange our last remaining through hole. That one is for the wastewater system. And we still want to be able to use our sink. So for that we have to disconnect the sink and put a bucket underneath it. And to be honest, morale is really low at the moment. There's so much to do. There's still so much to do until we can go back into the water. And we just want to get it done. So let's get the next thing done. I think it's fine. Wasn't quite the plan, but that thing got stuck. Let's see if the water does what it's supposed to do. Should work. And now on with the fun part. Let's see how easy it is to remove an at least 20-year-old seacock in the engine room.
We're thinking of moving the seavalve or seacock from the wastewater pipe to the previous freshwater pipe. Also interesting how close freshwater and wastewater are together. And I think we need to have a look at it. And first I want to remove all the unnecessary piping, like that pipe here that leads into nothing. Also I found, come here, a very interesting way of attaching things to a fuel tank. Just weld it in place. So I do want to remove maybe this one as well. And for that I need a pair of scissors, also called the good old angle grinder.
Did you expect it?
No, I hoped it was firmly attached over there.
Seems it wasn't.
Nope. What's really interesting is that the pipe I've just cut it is completely filled.
With weld or with something else?
Not a single one of them landed in the bilge. I call it a success.
We have a strong emergency bilge pump and deck wash pump right here. And now let's find out if it's still working. Sounds good. The next step is to loosen this nut here. And for that, we luckily have the right tool, this plier here, which we named Hermann, after a nice viewer who gifted it to us. Yeah, but it does matter in which direction I turn the nut.
You have to try.
I think it might be a...
Yep, you have to try. In one direction it works. And the chance you use the right direction, 50-50, you know?
Yeah, doesn't look like that's the right one. Ah, it's loose. That was easier than expected.
You're afraid of vermin?
Yeah, a bit. I think I can use a smaller one. Now maybe it's possible to just turn it. Yeah. Okay. First step done. I'm not sure how to continue, to be honest, because I thought,
It's loose.
yeah, it is, but I think it's stuck inside here. So we will come back to it in a later video, because it took us over a month to come back to this task. But in the meantime, we painted the welding spots and the derusted waterline with a 2-component primer, and we will explain why we can't sandblast.
I know with all the rust and holes many of you are wondering why we don't simply sandblast. Well, there are many reasons, but the most important one is it wasn't possible at the shipyard. The yard is in the center of a small town and has no shed, so if you sandblast, the rusty dust flies everywhere. And then it lands on cars, destroys the paint, and everyone is upset with the yard. And that's not what we want. Of course you could build a tent, but that alone is more expensive than sandblasting. And since sandblasting is quite expensive, we only want to do it once. And at least in my opinion, the best time for sandblasting is when all the work is done. Then you can paint the hull with a long-lasting 2-component paint and don't need to worry about rust for the next few years. But we still have a lot of work ahead of us, and each time you weld, you destroy the paint and you need to repaint it again. So until all the welding is done, there will be no sandblasting. Having said that, it took us weeks to derust the waterline, and it was absolutely no fun. So I think if we had that option, we probably would have used sandblasting, just to save time. But it is what it is. And one last thought about sandblasting. It's probably not the best blasting method anyway. Hydrojet blasting or laser blasting might be better options. And now let me know what you think.
So you already made it till here. I guess that means you really enjoy watching our videos. So I have good news for you. Here is a playlist with all our refitting videos, and I strongly recommend you go watch it right now. If you are already binge watching our videos, here's the next one. Of course, only if there is already a newer one. If not, it is the first video of our playlist. So you have to be a bit careful that you don't end up in a loop rewatching all our videos again and again and again.